My name is Leona Williams, and at 58 years old, I never thought I'd hear my own daughter Amanda plot to exclude me from her wedding. After working 3 jobs to raise her alone after sacrificing everything so she could attend her dream college, I heard her agree with her future mother-in-law that I wasn't worthy of attending because of my size. Built like a fridge, they said. They had no idea what I was capable of when pushed too far. Before I continue my story, let me know where you're watching from and hit that subscribe button if you've ever felt betrayed by family. I became a single mother when Amanda was just 4 years old. Her father, Patrick, decided that family life was too restrictive and left us for what he called freedom to find himself. That freedom apparently meant abandoning all financial and emotional responsibilities to his daughter. I still remember the night he left, Amanda crying at the window for hours asking when Daddy would come back. I promised her then that I would always be there for her, that I would give her everything she needed. It was a promise I took seriously, perhaps too seriously as I look back now. To keep that promise, I took on multiple jobs. Working as an administrative assistant during the day, waitressing in the evenings, and doing freelance bookkeeping on weekends. Sleep became a luxury I rarely enjoyed. My hands were constantly sore from typing, my feet aching from hours of standing, but Amanda never went without. Every school trip, every dance lesson, every new outfit for the first day of school, I made it happen. Despite the exhaustion, those early years held some of my most precious memories. Amanda and I had a special bond that I thought was unbreakable. On Sundays, my one morning off, we would bake cookies together. Her little hands would get covered in flour as she helped mix the dough. We had weekend trips to the local park where I would push her on the swings until my arms felt like they might fall off, but her laughter made it worthwhile. I stayed up countless nights, helping with science projects, English essays and math problems I had to relearn myself. I won't pretend it wasn't hard. After Patrick left, I found comfort in food. The stress of raising a child alone, working multiple jobs, and the loneliness that came with having no partner to share the burden, all of it led to weight gain that I never managed to reverse. Food became my friend when I was sad, my celebration when things went well, my companion when the house was quiet after Amanda went to bed. I know it wasn't healthy, but it was how I coped. Amanda's education was my priority above all else. I wanted her to have opportunities I never had. I skipped meals to save money for her college fund. I worked overtime whenever it was offered. I even sold my mother's jewellery, the only valuable things I owned, to help pay for Amanda's SAT prep courses. When she got it accepted to her dream school, an expensive private university, I cried with joy and somehow found ways to make it work financially. That's when things began to change. College transformed Amanda. She became more image-conscious, concerned with fitting in with her wealthier classmates. She started dating boys from privileged backgrounds, boys who had never known struggle. Her calls home became less frequent, her visits shorter and more distracted. I told myself it was normal that she was finding her own path, that this distance was part of growing up. During her junior year, she met Jackson Taylor. His family owned a chain of luxury hotels, and from the moment Amanda mentioned him, I could hear the awe in her voice. When I finally met him a few months later, he was polite but distant, clearly uncomfortable in my modest apartment. That same weekend, I met his mother, Victoria, a perfectly coiffed woman with diamond earrings that probably cost more than my annual salary, and a smile that never reached her eyes. "What a quaint little place," Victoria had said, looking around my living room with barely disguised disdain. "Amanda, darling, you never told me how cozy you grew up." Throughout that first dinner, she made subtle jabs about my appearance, my home, my job. "It must be so difficult to find professional clothing in your size," she commented, while examining my work blazer hanging by the door. Over the next 2 years, I watched as Victoria's influence over Amanda grew stronger. My daughter started to echo Victoria's opinions, her mannerisms. When Amanda and Jackson announced their engagement, Victoria immediately took control of the planning. "Don't worry about a thing," she told me with that cold smile. "I know exactly what's best for these young people." Despite feeling increasingly sidelined, I was excited about the wedding. I wanted to contribute in whatever way I could. I offered to help with the invitations, to bake cookies, for the bridal shower, to sew decorations. Tasks that wouldn't strain my limited finances. Each offer was politely declined by Victoria, who had hired professionals for everything. Still, I saved every extra dollar for a gift for the couple, and to buy myself a nice outfit for the big day. The warning signs were there, but I ignored them. Amanda seemed embarrassed when introducing me to Jackson's friends. She would quickly change the subject whenever I mentioned our past struggles or the jobs I had worked to support her. "Mum, no one wants to hear those old stories," she'd say with a tight smile. Once I overheard her telling a friend that she came from nothing but was moving up in the world. It hurt, but I rationalized it as youthful ambition, as her wanting to fit into her new social circle. The day that changed everything started like any other. I had taken the afternoon off work to continue working on a special wedding gift for Amanda, a handmade quilt using fabric from significant moments in her childhood. I had saved pieces from her first school uniform, her high school graduation dress, the curtains from her childhood bedroom. Each square represented a memory, a piece of our journey together. As I sewed, I felt closer to her than I had in months. Feeling nostalgic and hopeful, I decided to call Amanda to discuss some wedding details. She had mentioned needing help with the seating chart the last time we spoke. I wanted to offer my assistance again. She answered on the fourth ring, sounding distracted and slightly annoyed. "Mum, I'm actually at Victoria's house right now discussing the wedding. Can I call you back later?" "Of course, honey," I replied. "I just wanted to check if you needed help with the seating arrangements like you mentioned." "Everything's handled," she said quickly. "Victoria has hired a professional wedding planner. Listen, I need to go." I heard shuffling on the line, then Amanda's voice becoming distant as she presumably set the phone down without properly ending the call. At first, I was going to hang up, but then I heard Victoria's voice, clear and cutting. "Hope she's not coming for the wedding," Victoria said with a laugh. "We barely have enough seats as it is, and honestly, no seat for people built like a fridge." My heart froze. I held my breath, waiting, hoping that my daughter would defend me. Instead, I heard Amanda laugh along. "True mum could eat for three," she said. "Your wish is my command. We can tell her the ceremony starts later than it actually does. She'll miss the important parts." "Perfect," Victoria replied. "And we'll seat her in the very back for the reception behind that large column where she won't be in any of the important photos. Jackson's father has some business associates coming, and I don't want them thinking Jackson is marrying into, well, you know." "I get it," Amanda said. "I've worked so hard to fit in with your family. Mum is a reminder of where I came from, not where I'm going." "Exactly, darling. You're a tailor now, or you will be soon. That means maintaining certain standards. Your mother is lovely, I'm sure, but she doesn't exactly project the image we want associated with our family." They continued talking, making plans to minimize my presence, laughing about my appearance, my mannerisms, my accent that still carried traces of my rural upbringing. Every word felt like a physical blow. The quilt I had been working on lay forgotten in my lap as tears streamed down my face. The physical pain was intense. My chest felt tight, my stomach hollow. I've heard people describe heartbreak as a metaphor, but in that moment, I truly felt like something inside me had shattered. The betrayal cut deeper than anything I'd ever experienced, deeper even than when Patrick walked out. He was just a man who didn't love me enough to stay. But Amanda was my child, my purpose, the person I had centered my entire life around. I didn't confront them. I didn't scream or yell or demand an explanation. I simply hung up the phone quietly and sat in the silence of my apartment, surrounded by the fabric pieces of Amanda's childhood, each one now a reminder of a relationship that perhaps never existed the way I thought it did. That night, I couldn't sleep. I pulled out old photo albums instead, tracing Amanda's growth from a smiling toddler to a confident young woman. Each picture represented a sacrifice, a moment I had worked to create for her. In one, I was clearly exhausted, dark circles under my eyes after working a double shift, but I was still smiling, helping 5-year-old Amanda build a sandcastle at the beach. In another, I stood proudly beside teenage Amanda at her debate competition, wearing the same dress I'd worn to 3 previous events because I couldn't afford a new one. As dawn broke, I was still awake, still looking at photos, still wondering where I had gone wrong, how the child I had given everything to could dismiss me so cruelly, how she could be ashamed of the very person who had ensured she never felt the shame of poverty. The days that followed were a blur. I called in sick to work, something I rarely did, even when actually ill. I couldn't eat or sleep properly. The wedding was 6 weeks away, and the thought of it filled me with dread. I had been so excited to see my only child get married, to celebrate this milestone with her. Now the event loomed like a punishment I had to endure. I found myself revisiting memories of Amanda's childhood, searching for signs I might have missed. I remembered staying up all night sewing her Halloween costume when she was 8. She wanted to be a butterfly with real wings that moved. I used wire coat hangers and old sheets, following a complicated pattern I found in a library book. Her delight the next morning made my exhaustion worthwhile. I never missed a dance recital or school play, even when it meant asking co-workers to cover for me and working double shifts to make up the hours. One afternoon, while looking through a book of Amanda's old school papers, I found her college acceptance letter. I remembered how we had celebrated that night, splurging on takeout food from her favourite restaurant, a luxury we rarely afforded. What Amanda didn't know was that I had taken an extra cleaning job on Sunday mornings to afford the deposit that secured her place. I cleaned office buildings when most people were still asleep, my hands raw from chemical cleaners so that my daughter could have her dream. The painful realization that my daughter was ashamed of me settled in my chest like a physical weight. Was it just my appearance she was embarrassed by, or was it everything I represented? The working class background, the struggle, the lack of sophistication that Victoria Taylor exuded so effortlessly. Had I somehow failed Amanda by not giving her a better role model? Someone more like Victoria, I tried to rationalize her behavior. Perhaps Victoria had manipulated her, played on her insecurities, her desire to belong in this new wealthy world. Maybe Amanda was temporarily caught up in wedding stress and Victoria's influence. Maybe she didn't really mean the cruel words I had overheard, but deep down I knew better. Amanda had laughed. She had contributed her own insults. She had made plans to exclude me. This wasn't a momentary lapse of judgment. It was a reflection of how she truly saw me. While sorting through more old photos, I came across a picture of my own mother, a strong, dignified woman who had taught me about self-respect. Never let anyone make you feel small, she used to say. Your worth isn't determined by others. I had forgotten those lessons somewhere along the way, too busy trying to be everything for Amanda. I realized I had enabled Amanda's behavior. I had always given without expecting gratitude or respect in return. I had taught her that my feelings were secondary, that her wants superseded my needs. I had shown her that it was acceptable to take and take without reciprocating. In trying to give her everything I hadn't had, I had failed to give her one of the most important lessons: how to value the people who love you. The weight of years of sacrifice hit me at once. All those missed meals, postponed dreams, the constant physical exhaustion, all for a daughter who could dismiss me so easily, who could mock me with her future mother-in-law as if I were nothing more than an embarrassing problem to solve. I called my friend Dorothy, one of the few people who had stood by me through all the years of single motherhood. Dorothy had always been straight with me, sometimes uncomfortably so. When I told her what I'd overheard, she wasn't surprised. Leona, I've watched you break your back for that girl for 24 years, she said, and I've watched her take it for granted for at least the last 10. You deserve better, honey, not just from her, but from yourself. When are you going to put yourself first for once? Dorothy's words resonated in a way nothing else had. I did deserve better. I deserved to be treated with dignity. I deserved to be acknowledged for the sacrifices I had made. I deserved to be seen not as an embarrassment, but as the strong woman who had moved mountains to give her child a better life. In that moment, something shifted inside me. I decided that I wouldn't let Amanda and Victoria determine my worth. I wouldn't let them diminish my role as Amanda's mother. I had earned my place in my daughter's life and at her wedding. If they couldn't see that, then perhaps I needed to help them see it more clearly. I sat at my kitchen table that evening, a notepad in front of me, thinking about what to do next. My first instinct had been to confront Amanda immediately, to demand an explanation for her cruelty. But something told me that approach wouldn't work. Amanda was too deeply enmeshed in Victoria's world now. A direct confrontation would only push her further away and allow them to paint me as the villain, the oversensitive, demanding mother trying to ruin the wedding. No, this required a different approach. I needed to reclaim my dignity, to show Amanda the consequences of her actions without destroying our relationship completely. After all, despite everything, she was still my daughter, and I still loved her. I just couldn't continue to let her treat me this way. I picked up the phone and made my first call to my sister Rachel in California. Rachel and I had drifted apart over the years. She was a successful interior designer in Los Angeles, always perfectly put together, always moving in social circles that intimidated me. But she was still my sister, and I needed her now. "Leona," she answered, surprised. "Is everything okay? You never call on weeknights." My voice broke as I started to explain. I told her everything, the overheard conversation, the years of sacrifice, my heartbreak at Amanda's betrayal. Rachel listened without interrupting, and when I finished, her anger was palpable, even through the phone. Those entitled, superficial— She didn't finish the sentence, taking a deep breath instead. "Leona, you have been a saint, an absolute saint, and this is how she repays you, by letting that country club snob convince her you're not good enough to be at her wedding. Absolutely not. This ends now." Rachel's righteous anger on my behalf was validating. Someone else could see how wrong this was, how deeply I had been hurt. "What should I do?" I asked her. "I don't want to miss my only daughter's wedding, but I can't pretend I didn't hear what I heard." "First of all," Rachel said, her voice taking on the decisive tone she used when discussing design plans, "that money you've been saving for their wedding gift, you're going to use it differently. You're coming to California. We're getting you a complete makeover, hair, clothes, everything. Not because there's anything wrong with how you look, but because you deserve to invest in yourself for once." The idea was both terrifying and exhilarating. I had never spent money on myself that way. It had always gone to bills, to Amanda's needs, to practical things. "I couldn't possibly," I started. "You can and you will," Rachel interrupted. "Book the ticket tonight. I'll clear my schedule." After talking with Rachel, I felt a spark of something I hadn't felt in years. Possibility, but I needed more than a makeover. I needed a plan. So I made my second call to Thomas, a former colleague who had left our company to start his own event planning business. "Thomas Marshall," he answered professionally. "Thomas, it's Leona Williams." "Leona, how are you? It's been ages." I explained my situation, leaving out the most painful details, simply saying that I needed help planning an event that would coincide with Amanda's wedding weekend. "I want to host a celebration," I told him, "not to compete with the wedding, but as a separate event, something meaningful for me." Thomas was intrigued. "What kind of celebration are you thinking? A new beginning?" I said, surprising myself with the conviction in my voice. "I've spent my whole adult life being Amanda's mother. I think it's time I remembered how to be Leona." Thomas's enthusiasm was immediate. He promised to find a perfect venue and help me plan something special. Not a pity party, he insisted. A genuine celebration of you and your journey. My third call was the hardest. I hadn't spoken to Patrick, Amanda's father, in nearly 20 years. After he left us, he had made sporadic attempts to stay in contact with Amanda, sending birthday cards with insufficient checks, calling on holidays. By the time Amanda was in high school, even those token efforts had stopped. I had no idea where he was now, but I knew someone who might. I called Patrick's sister, got his number, and then sat staring at it for nearly an hour before finding the courage to dial. When he answered, his voice was exactly as I remembered, and it sent an unexpected wave of emotion through me. "Leona," he said, after I identified myself. "Is something wrong? Is Amanda okay?" "Amanda is fine," I said stiffly. "She's getting married in 6 weeks." The silence on the other end stretched uncomfortably. "I didn't know," he finally said. "She didn't. I wasn't invited." "That makes 2 of us," I replied, and then found myself telling this man who had abandoned us about the conversation I had overheard about how our daughter had grown ashamed of her roots, about how much it hurt to be erased after everything I had done. Patrick listened quietly. When I finished, he sighed deeply. "I'm not surprised," he said, which wasn't the response I expected. "I tried to reconnect with her about 3 years ago. I had gotten sober, was doing well in business for the first time in my life. I reached out thinking maybe we could build some kind of relationship. She agreed to meet once at a coffee shop near her college. She spent the entire time checking her watch, making it clear I was an inconvenience. When some friends of hers walked in, she pretended not to know me. Later, she sent a text saying it would be better if I didn't contact her again, that she had moved beyond her past." His story hit me hard, not because I felt sorry for Patrick. He had earned Amanda's rejection by being absent, but because it confirmed a pattern in Amanda's behavior that I had been reluctant to acknowledge. "I'm sorry to hear that," I said, and found that I genuinely meant it. "I'm not calling for sympathy, though. I'm calling because I'm doing something for myself for the first time in decades, and I thought you should know about it." I told him about my plans. Withdrawing my financial contribution to the wedding that Amanda had been counting on, despite their exclusion plans, my upcoming trip to see Rachel, and the celebration I was planning with Thomas's help. "This isn't about revenge," I clarified. "It's about self-respect and about teaching Amanda that actions have consequences." "I'd like to help," Patrick said after a moment. "I owe you both so much, but you especially, Leona. You did what I couldn't or wouldn't do. You raised our daughter alone. Let me at least contribute to whatever you're planning, and I'd like to attend if you'll have me." I was surprised by his offer, but even more surprised by my willingness to accept it. "Okay," I said. "I'll be in touch with details." As I hung up the phone after that third call, I felt something shifting inside me. The plan forming wasn't about hurting Amanda or getting back at Victoria. It was about reclaiming my sense of self, about showing my daughter that while I would always love her, I would no longer enable her hurtful behavior. Sometimes the most loving thing a parent can do is set boundaries and let their child face the consequences of their choices. The next 2 months passed in a whirlwind of activity. I took a week off work, something I had rarely done, and flew to California to stay with Rachel. The moment I arrived, she had a full schedule planned. "First stop my stylist, Franco," she announced, whisking me from the airport directly to an upscale salon. "He's a miracle worker." Franco studied me thoughtfully, walking in circles around my chair. "Such beautiful bone structure hidden under this outdated cut," he muttered. "And your natural colour is magnificent. We just need to enhance it." 3 hours later, I barely recognised myself in the mirror. My formerly shapeless grey-brown hair was now a rich chestnut colour with subtle highlights that brightened my complexion. The new cut framed my face, emphasising cheekbones I hadn't realised I had. For the first time in years, I felt attractive. Rachel wasn't done with me yet. "Now for your wardrobe," she declared. "You've been hiding in those oversized clothes for too long." I had always bought clothes that concealed my size boxy shapes in dark colours designed to help me fade into the background. Rachel had other ideas. She took me to boutiques that specialised in plus-size fashion but didn't compromise on style. "You have curves, sister. Real women have curves. Let's work with them, not against them." We found dresses with defined waistlines that flattered my figure, blouses in vibrant colours that brought out the green in my eyes, and for the first time, I bought clothing simply because it made me feel good, not because it was practical or on sale. "And this," Rachel said, holding up a stunning blue dress, "is for the wedding, if you decide to attend." "I don't know if I'm going anymore," I admitted. "That's your choice," Rachel said gently. "But if you do go, you'll go looking like the strong, beautiful woman you are, not to impress them but to remind yourself of your worth." The external changes were just the beginning. Rachel had also arranged for me to meet with a therapist who specialised in family estrangement. Dr. Martinez helped me process the deep hurt of Amanda's betrayal without letting it define me. "Your identity has been wrapped up in being Amanda's mother for so long," she observed during our second session. "It's time to rediscover who Leona is beyond that role." Through our sessions, I began to address the emotional damage not just from Amanda's betrayal, but from years of putting myself last. Dr. Martinez also connected me with a support group for parents estranged from adult children. Hearing others' stories helped me feel less alone, less like I had somehow uniquely failed as a mother. When I returned home, I had a renewed sense of purpose. I met with a financial advisor who helped me reassess my situation. I was surprised to discover that once I stopped sending Amanda money, something I had continued to do sporadically even after she graduated, I was actually in decent financial shape. Not wealthy by any means, but stable with a modest retirement fund I hadn't realised had grown over the years. Thomas threw himself into planning my New Beginnings celebration with enthusiasm. We found a lovely venue, a renovated historic home with gardens, available the same evening as Amanda's wedding reception. The symbolism wasn't lost on me, but this wasn't about competing with her wedding. It was about marking my own transition. I invited friends, colleagues, and family members who had supported me through the years, people who saw my worth beyond my role as Amanda's mother. To my surprise, almost everyone accepted. Patrick confirmed he would attend as well, a gesture of solidarity that meant more to me than I expected. My confidence grew steadily as the wedding date approached. I felt like I was reclaiming pieces of myself that had been lost for decades. I started taking a water aerobics class at the local community centre, found I enjoyed it, and added a yoga class as well. I accepted dinner invitations I would have previously declined, reconnecting with friends I had neglected while focusing solely on Amanda. 3 weeks before the wedding, I had a chance encounter with Victoria at a local boutique. I had stopped in to look for accessories for my new outfits, another first for me, caring about such details. Victoria was at the counter discussing flower arrangements for the wedding with the shop owner, who also did event florals. With my new hair clothes and the confidence that came with them, Victoria didn't recognise me at first. I stood nearby pretending to examine a display of scarves and overheard more details about their plans to minimise my role. "We've arranged for Leona to be seated behind the large floral arrangement," Victoria was saying. "Amanda is concerned she might try to make a speech which would be a disaster. You know how emotional these mother types get, especially ones from her background. We've made sure the photographer knows not to include her in the main family photos. We'll do a few token shots with her for Amanda's conscience, but they won't be in the album." The casual cruelty in her voice made my blood boil, but instead of feeling crushed as I might have before I felt resolved, I had made the right decision about setting boundaries. I left the store without making a purchase, but with my dignity intact. Rather than confronting Amanda directly about what I had overheard on the phone, I decided to write her a letter. I spent days drafting it, working to express my hurt without accusation, my boundaries without ultimatums. "Amanda, I wrote, "I have always wanted the best for you, even when that came at great personal cost. I have supported your dreams, celebrated your successes, and loved you unconditionally. Recently, I've come to realize that in giving you everything I taught you, that my feelings and dignity were unimportant. This is my fault as much as yours. As your wedding approaches, I want you to know that I love you and always will. But I also want you to understand that I deserve respect not just as your mother, but as a person. I'm writing to let you know that I will not be contributing financially to your wedding as previously discussed. I am using that money to invest in myself for the first time in my adult life. I have not yet decided if I will attend the ceremony. This decision is not meant to hurt you, but to honor myself." Amanda's response came 3 days later, a text message rather than a letter. "Mum, you're being dramatic. Of course I respect you. It's my wedding day and you're making it about yourself. I was counting on that money. This is so unfair." Her dismissive response confirmed what I already knew. Amanda saw me not as a full person with feelings and dignity, but as an extension of herself, a resource to be used. It hurt, but it also strengthened my resolve. I didn't respond to the text. Some lessons can only be learned through consequences, not words. The morning of the wedding dawned bright and clear. I woke up feeling strangely calm, a stark contrast to the anxiety that had plagued me in the weeks following the phone call. I had decided after much reflection that I would attend the ceremony. Not for Victoria's sake, certainly not to play the role they had planned for me, but because despite everything, I was still Amanda's mother. I wanted to witness this milestone in her life, even if my role had been diminished. I wouldn't, however, be attending the reception. That evening was reserved for my own celebration, my declaration of independence and new beginnings. Rachel had flown in the night before and was staying with me. She helped me get ready, applying makeup with a skilled hand that enhanced rather than masked my features. "You look stunning," she said, as I put on the blue dress we had chosen together. It hugged my curves in a way that felt flattering rather than exposing the colour, bringing out both my eyes and the new highlights in my hair. Absolutely stunning. We arrived at the church 30 minutes before the ceremony was set to begin, deliberately early. I wanted to be settled before most guests arrived to avoid the awkwardness of finding my assigned seat under Victoria's watchful eye. The church was already bustling with activity. Florists making final adjustments, the photographer setting up equipment, early guests finding their seats. Victoria spotted me almost immediately. Her eyes widened in shock as she took in my transformed appearance. For a moment, she seemed unable to speak, her carefully composed facade cracking slightly. Then she recovered, moving quickly toward us. "Leona," she said, her voice tight. "You're early, and you've brought a guest. I'm afraid we didn't account for extra people in our seating arrangements." "This is my sister Rachel," I said calmly. "She's not staying for the ceremony. She just wanted to help me get settled." This was a small lie. Rachel had every intention of staying, but I wanted to see how Victoria would respond. "How considerate," Victoria said, not sounding like she meant it. "Well, we have you seated in the back behind the flower arrangement. It's quite cosy there." "Actually," I said, maintaining my composure, "as the mother of the bride, I believe tradition places me in the front row opposite the groom's family. That's where I'll be sitting." Victoria's face flushed. "Now, Leona, we've carefully planned everything. The seating arrangement is fixed. I'm sure you don't want to disrupt Amanda's special day with issues." "The only issue," Rachel interjected smoothly, "would be not giving the mother of the bride the respect her position deserves. Surely you understand tradition, Victoria." Before Victoria could respond, Amanda appeared in the doorway, leading from the bridal preparation room. She was already in her wedding gown, breaking with the superstition about the groom not seeing the bride before the ceremony. She looked beautiful, and despite everything, my heart swelled with love and pride. Amanda's expression when she saw me was a complex mixture of emotions. Initial joy at seeing me looking so well, followed almost immediately by panic as she remembered the plans she'd made with Victoria. She hurried over Jackson, following close behind. "Mum," she said, her voice a mixture of surprise and anxiety. "You look different." "Thank you, honey," I replied sincerely. "You look absolutely beautiful." Jackson stepped forward, extending his hand. "Leona, it's good to see you. Thank you for coming." There was a warmth in his voice that surprised me. Perhaps he wasn't as firmly under Victoria's influence as I had assumed. "We were just discussing the seating arrangements," Victoria cut in. "I was explaining to Leona that everything has been carefully planned." Jackson frowned slightly. "What's the issue? Leona should be in the front row, of course. She's the mother of the bride." A flash of annoyance crossed Victoria's face, quickly masked. "Of course, if that's what everyone wants. We'll need to make some adjustments." I caught Amanda's eye, saw the conflict there. She was caught between her desire to please Victoria and the realization that excluding her mother so completely was wrong. In that moment, I felt a flicker of hope that beneath the superficiality, she had adopted my daughter. The real Amanda I had raised might still exist. The ceremony itself was beautiful despite the undercurrent of tension. I sat proudly in the front row, holding my head high. During the vows, I noticed that Amanda kept glancing my way, as if seeking reassurance or approval. When the minister asked if anyone objected to the union, I saw her throw me a fearful glance. Did she really think I would cause a scene? The thought saddened me, but I maintained my dignity throughout. After the ceremony, as guests began making their way to the reception venue, I approached Amanda during a moment when she was separated from Victoria. Jackson was nearby speaking with his groomsmen. "Amanda, can we speak privately for a moment?" I asked. She looked nervous but nodded, following me to a quiet corner of the church. "I want you to know that I won't be attending the reception," I said gently. "What? Why not?" she asked, though I could see in her eyes that she knew exactly why. "Because I heard your conversation with Victoria," I said, my voice steady. "I heard you agree with her that I shouldn't attend the wedding because I'm built like a fridge and could eat for 3. I heard your plans to seat me where I wouldn't be visible, to exclude me from photos, to tell me the wrong time so I would miss parts of the ceremony." Amanda's face drained of colour. "Mum, I didn't mean—" "You did mean it, Amanda. You laughed. You added your own insults. You agreed with her plan." I kept my voice low and calm, not wanting to create a scene, but I needed her to hear the truth. "I raised you alone. I worked 3 jobs, so you could have everything you needed. I put your education, your happiness, your future ahead of my own needs for 24 years, and in return, you've decided I'm an embarrassment, something to be hidden away." Amanda's eyes filled with tears. "It's not like that. Victoria can be persuasive, and I just wanted everything to be perfect. I was stressed about the wedding and—" "No," I interrupted firmly. "This isn't about stress or Victoria's influence alone. This is about the choices you made. You chose to mock me, to deny me my rightful place in your life, to treat me as less than because of how I look or where I come from." Victoria appeared then, as if sensing a situation that needed controlling. "Is everything all right here, Amanda, darling? People are waiting to congratulate you." "Actually, no," I said, turning to face Victoria. "Everything is not all right. I was just explaining to Amanda why I won't be attending the reception." Victoria's face took on a look of faux concern. "Oh, Leona, are you not feeling well? Perhaps the excitement was too much." "I'm feeling perfectly fine," I replied. "What I'm not feeling is welcome. I overheard your conversation about me, Victoria, about how I'm built like a fridge, how I should be hidden away at my own daughter's wedding, and I heard Amanda agree with you." Victoria's mask of politeness slipped. "You were eavesdropping. How inappropriate." "No, Amanda forgot to hang up the phone. But what's truly inappropriate is plotting to humiliate the woman who raised your daughter-in-law, who sacrificed everything for her." By this point, Jackson had noticed the tension and joined our group. "What's going on?" he asked, looking between the 3 of us. "Ask your wife and mother," I said calmly. Ask them about their plans to exclude me from this day to seat me where I wouldn't be seen to keep me out of photos. Jackson's expression darkened as he turned to Amanda. Is this true? Amanda's tears were flowing freely now. Jackson, I can explain. It wasn't like that. It was exactly like that, Victoria interjected. But really, can you blame us? We have appearances to maintain, standards to uphold. Your family has a certain position in society, and Leona simply doesn't fit that image. Jackson looked at his mother in disbelief. Are you serious right now? You planned to exclude Amanda's mother from our wedding because of how she looks. A small group of guests had gathered nearby, clearly overhearing portions of our conversation. I hadn't intended to create a scene, but I wasn't going to back down either. I've said what I needed to say. I told Amanda, keeping my voice steady despite the emotions churning inside me. I love you. I always will. But I won't allow myself to be treated this way, not even by you. I've withdrawn my financial contribution to your wedding, as you know. That money is going toward building a life for myself, something I should have started doing years ago. Mum, please, Amanda begged, reaching for my hand. Don't go. We can fix this. Some things can't be fixed with a quick apology, I said. Some lessons need to be learned through consequences. I wish you and Jackson happiness in your marriage. I truly do, but I won't be celebrating with you today. I have my own celebration to attend. With that, I turned and walked away, head held high, Rachel at my side. I could hear Victoria attempting damage control behind me, could feel the stares of guests who had witnessed the confrontation, but for the first time in decades, I wasn't concerned with how others perceived me or with making things easier for everyone else. I was honouring my own worth, my own dignity. As we stepped outside into the sunshine, Rachel squeezed my hand. I'm so proud of you, she whispered. So incredibly proud. The new beginnings celebration that Thomas had helped me plan was everything I could have hoped for. The venue was beautiful. A historic home with gardens in full bloom. Guests began arriving shortly after I did, each one, greeting me with genuine warmth and affection. There were colleagues who had supported me through tough times at work, neighbours who had helped with Amanda when she was young, friends I had reconnected with in recent weeks. Patrick arrived early, looking nervous but determined. 20 years had changed him significantly. His hair had thinned and greyed lines etched around his eyes and mouth, but I recognised him immediately. We stood awkwardly for a moment before he spoke. You look wonderful, Leona. Really wonderful. Thank you, I said, accepting the compliment without deflecting it as I once would have. I need to say something, Patrick continued, his voice thick with emotion. I've rehearsed this for days, but now that I'm here, the words seem inadequate. I'm sorry, Leona. I'm so deeply sorry for leaving you and Amanda, for shirking my responsibilities, for putting my own selfish desires ahead of my family's needs. You did an amazing job raising our daughter alone. You're the strongest person I've ever known, and I was a coward for walking away from you both. His apology was unexpected and touched something deep inside me, not because I had been waiting 20 years to hear it, but because I realised I no longer needed it. I had moved beyond the pain of his abandonment. Thank you for saying that, I replied sincerely. It means a lot to hear it. We can't change the past, but perhaps we can build something better for the future. The evening unfolded beautifully. We enjoyed a delicious meal, shared stories and laughter. Thomas had arranged for several people to give toasts, each one celebrating not what I had done for others, but who I was as a person, my resilience, my kindness, my quiet strength. There was music and even dancing. I found myself on the dance floor more than once, moving with a freedom I hadn't felt in years. Throughout the evening, my phone buzzed repeatedly with messages and calls from Amanda. I didn't answer, not out of spite, but because this night was about me, about my journey, about celebrating the person I was, beyond being Amanda's mother. I would talk to her tomorrow when emotions weren't so raw, when I could approach the conversation with clarity and compassion. One call I did take came from Jackson. "Leona, it's Jackson. I wanted you to know that I had no idea about any of this, about what my mother and Amanda planned. I'm so sorry. I believe you," I told him, "and I don't blame you for their actions." "I've had some difficult conversations with both of them tonight," he continued. "I want you to know that this isn't the kind of family I intend to build with Amanda. I respect you enormously for how you raised her, for the sacrifices you made. I hope that in time we can develop a relationship based on that respect." His words touched me. "I hope so too, Jackson. Amanda is still my daughter, and I want to be part of her life, but things will need to change." "I understand," he said, "and for what it's worth, I think you look beautiful in the photos we took at the church. Nothing like a fridge." That made me laugh, a genuine laugh that felt healing. "Thank you, Jackson. Now go back to your wedding reception. We'll talk more another time." As the evening wound down, I found myself standing in the garden, looking up at the stars. Patrick joined me, keeping a respectful distance. "Penny for your thoughts," he said quietly. "I was just thinking about journeys," I replied. "About how we never really know where life will take us. 25 years ago, I was a young mother terrified of raising a child alone. Tonight, I'm standing here surrounded by people who value me for who I am, not just for what I've done for others. It's not a journey I would have chosen, but I'm proud of where it's brought me." Patrick nodded. "You should be proud. You're an extraordinary woman, Leona. I was too young and foolish to see it back then, but I see it clearly now." We stood in companionable silence for a while longer before rejoining the party. The night ended with hugs and promises to stay in touch, genuine promises that I intended to keep. For too long, I had isolated myself, focusing solely on Amanda. It was time to nurture other relationships to create a life rich with connections. As I returned home that night, I felt an unfamiliar sense of peace. Not because everything was resolved with Amanda, it wasn't, and that still hurt deeply. But because I had finally honoured myself, had stood up for my own dignity and worth. Whatever happened next with Amanda, I would face it as a whole person, not just as her mother. The weeks following the wedding brought multiple attempts at reconciliation from Amanda. The first few messages were defensive, still trying to justify her actions. "You don't understand the pressure I was under," one text read. "Victoria has certain expectations, and I was just trying to make everything perfect." I didn't respond to those. I wasn't interested in excuses or justifications. I was waiting for genuine recognition of the hurt she had caused, for a true apology that acknowledged not just this incident, but the pattern of taking me for granted that had developed over years. It took nearly a month, but eventually Amanda asked if we could meet in person. We arranged to have coffee at a neutral location, neither her new home nor mine, but a quiet cafe halfway between. When she arrived, I was struck by how young she looked, how vulnerable. The polished exterior she had adopted under Victoria's influence was less evident. Her eyes were red-rimmed, suggesting she had been crying. "Mum," she began, her voice breaking, "I don't know how to fix this. I don't know if it can be fixed. What I did. What I said, it was unforgivable." "Nothing is unforgivable," I replied gently, "but forgiveness doesn't mean there are no consequences or that trust can be immediately restored." "I know," she whispered. "I keep thinking about all you did for me growing up, all the sacrifices, and I repaid you by treating you as if you were something to be ashamed of. I let Victoria's superficial values become my own. I became someone I don't recognize, someone I don't like." It was the first time Amanda had acknowledged the deeper pattern, had taken full responsibility without deflecting blame to Victoria or circumstances. It was a start. "I miss you," she continued. "Jackson misses you too. He's been so supportive, but also very clear that what I did was wrong. He's even set boundaries with his mother, told her she needs to treat you with respect if she wants to be part of our lives." That surprised me. "How did Victoria take that?" Amanda gave a rueful smile. Not well initially, but I think she's realizing that Jackson is serious. And honestly, I'm learning to stand up to her too. It's hard. She can be very persuasive, very dominating, but I'm trying. We talked for over 2 hours. I listened as Amanda explained the insecurities that had led her to value Victoria's approval so highly, how she had always felt inferior around Jackson's wealthy friends, how Victoria had initially made her feel special, included until that inclusion came with conditions. I shared my own journey of the past few months, the lessons I was learning about self-worth and boundaries. We didn't resolve everything in one conversation. Trust once broken takes time to rebuild, but we made a start. I agreed to have dinner with her and Jackson the following week. Small steps toward healing. Victoria continued to be a challenge. She made several attempts to reassert control, to minimize what had happened. Water under the bridge, she called it when we next met, trying to sweep the incident away without acknowledgement. I politely but firmly corrected her. This wasn't a minor misunderstanding to be dismissed. It was a significant breach of trust that required accountability and changed behavior to repair. Over time, with Jackson's support and Amanda's growing backbone, Victoria began to adjust her approach. She would never be warm or genuinely accepting of me, I suspected, but she learned to maintain a civil, respectful demeanor. It was enough. A year after the wedding, Amanda announced she was pregnant. The news brought a fresh opportunity for healing, for establishing new patterns in our relationship. When she asked if I would be willing to help prepare the nursery, I saw it as an olive branch and a chance to build something positive together. Victoria predictably had strong opinions about how involved grandmothers should be. In my family, she announced during one planning dinner, grandmothers consult with the parents, but don't overstep. We believe in clear boundaries. Before Amanda could respond, I spoke up. I completely agree about boundaries, Victoria. They're essential in all relationships, including the boundary that grandmothers should speak respectfully about each other and recognize that each has a valuable role to play. Amanda smiled at me across the table. A smile of gratitude and recognition. She was learning from my example how to stand firm without becoming combative, how to establish boundaries with dignity. The journey of rebuilding trust with Amanda continues. Some days are easier than others. There are still moments when old hurts resurface, when I question if she truly values me or if she's just going through the motions. But I've learned that relationships, especially family ones, aren't static. They evolve, they require maintenance, they demand honest communication and mutual respect. Most importantly, I've learned that loving my daughter doesn't mean sacrificing my dignity or self-worth. True love, whether for a child, a parent, a partner, or oneself, is never about erasure or diminishment. It's about seeing each other fully, flaws and all, and choosing to respect the entirety of who we are. If there's one lesson I hope my story conveys, it's this: standing up for yourself isn't selfish. It's necessary. Setting boundaries isn't cruel. It's an act of love. For yourself and for those who need to learn that their actions have consequences. And it's never too late to reclaim your sense of worth, to remind the world and yourself that you matter. What about you? Have you ever had to set difficult boundaries with loved ones or found yourself undervalued by those you sacrificed for? Share your experiences in the comments below. And if my story resonated with you, please hit that subscribe button and like this video. Your support helps me continue sharing these personal journeys. Thank you for listening, and remember, your worth is not determined by how others treat you, but by how you choose to honor yourself.